Jonathan. So, Grandpa and I felt it appropriate to put together a video montage for you with the assistance of Sean about refrigeration systems in action. Let's jump inside, shall we? So the other day we were talking about accumulators. As you can tell, this accumulator is frozen on the bottom because it's doing its job of accumulating. Its job in life is to protect the compressor. Grandpa, would you mind hand modeling these components as I display them? So the accumulator, let's go through the walk here. So let's just say we start the journey in the compressor, and now our merry journey goes underway through the discharge line. It's not called the liquid line at this point, but the discharge line. When in the discharge line, the refrigerant is a high temperature, high pressure vapor, not liquid, but vapor. Liquid is never allowed in the compressor. No. So, that's right. So the refrigerant leaves the discharge line, and it begins its merry journey on down, and in this case, this is a heat pump. So it goes into the reversing valve. Da, 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 da. If this were a cooling only unit, it would just enter the condenser at this point. Since it's a heat pump, it does not. In this case, if the heat pump is in cooling mode, it will exit the reversing valve into the condenser through this little apparatus and all of these little tubes so that it's got a good little even feed to the entire condenser. So it's inside the condenser, and it's about 220 degrees or so when it goes in there. And the condenser fan, which is not shown in this illustration, is pulling air across it the whole time and lowering the temperature of the refrigerant. Ooh, ah. But does it lower it low enough? Nay, it does not. So it does get it down to about 85 degrees or so, and it enters the liquid line. So this is the little cap tubes are pulling the refrigerant out of the condenser, and it's going into the liquid line through the most inconveniently placed dryer in the world, which Grandpa's got a great idea on how to get past it, and through the liquid line right there. Grandpa's going to hook up the liquid line for us. Kerboom! At this point, the refrigerant has condensed in the condenser to a low temperature, yet high pressure liquid. So it's about 85 degrees at this point, or so, 90, depending on the temperature. It leaves the liquid line through the line set and enters the evaporator. Da, 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 da. So then it goes through the liquid line, and it hits the piston. In this case, this got a piston in it. All right, it hits the piston and it starts to evaporate when it gets in here, but there's still some liquid in it, and it goes through the cap tubes right here. A good even feed into the evaporator. And so then it feeds evenly across the whole evaporator. Still a little bit of liquid, but as the air's blowing across it, it evaporates completely, thus fulfilling its calling in life of being an evaporator. And through this process of superheating the refrigerant, it lowers the temperature drastically to 50 degrees or so, give or take. When the 50-degree refrigerant has made its merry journey through the evaporator, it then evenly distributes through the tubes into this one tube that probably has a name right here, but I don't know it. And it goes into the suction line. Da, 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 da. So sucking. It is sucking. And so then back through the suction line. Grandpa hooks up the suction line, goes through that, except in real life, the liquid line is still attached. goes into the suction line. Back inside. And since it is a heat pump, it goes into the reversing valve again. Since we're in cooling mode, the reversing valve is switched over to the accumulator. Now see, what happens in this case is sometimes if your ductwork's not sized right, or the blower motor's not working right, or you know, low on Freon or something like that, Freon problem I should say, you get liquid all the way through the suction line. They're not supposed to be liquid in the suction line. That's bad, but sometimes it happens anyway. And it goes all the way through here, and it goes into the accumulator. As you can tell, there's ice on the accumulator like we saw before. That's where the liquid is, and what it does is it sits there in that accumulator and it boils off until it's vapor. It's all it is like a trap, like a condensation trap. Sits there and boils off, and then the vapor returns safely to the compressor. And the journey is complete.